My mother is pregnant, and my grandmother is brewing medicine for her. The medicine got burnt, but my grandmother couldn't bear to throw it away, so she added more water. If the Chinese medicine is burnt, its properties will change and it may become toxic. I told my mother about it, and she didn't dare to drink it either, so she told me to pour the medicine away. After that, my mother gave birth to a younger sister. My mother was beaten and scolded by my grandmother and father, and she pushed me out, saying it was me who poured away the gender-changing medicine, so I was beaten up by them together. I died because my injuries were too severe. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my grandmother was brewing the medicine. A bitter scent reached the tip of my nose, followed by a sharp and harsh voice. Hurry up and go wash the clothes. What are you standing there for, eating for free all day, you useless thing? My arm was slapped hard, and I jolted awake with a start, looking at the familiar scene before me and the medicine pot on the stove steaming with white smoke. My heart raced wildly. Still not going. Grandma impatiently slapped me hard. I'm going right now. I quickly ran out. I glanced back at that medicine pot, my heart racing. I'm back. In my previous life, when I was 12 years old, my mother became pregnant again after giving birth to me. My mother had health issues and was unable to conceive again. This time, she finally became pregnant, and the whole family was overjoyed. I am also very happy. Although my father, grandfather, and grandmother favor boys over girls, they don't like me and are always shouting at me. My mother treats me very well and protects me when my father hits me. She always says that I am her most precious child and that she loves me very much. I love her very much too, although everyone says that after mom gives birth to a little brother, she won't love me anymore. I'm not afraid. I believe that mom definitely won't treat me the way they say. After that, Dad took mom to the hospital. When they came back, their expressions were very grim. I don't know why, and I don't dare to ask. Dad and Grandma huddled together, discussing something I couldn't hear, and soon they were smiling again. Soon, Grandma brought back a pile of herbs, saying she was going to brew some medicine to help mom keep the baby. Mom's health isn't great, and it's rare for her to be pregnant. She's having a tough time with the symptoms and has to stay in bed. Grandma really enjoys brewing various traditional Chinese medicinal herbs. She believes Western medicine is all a scam and too expensive. Moreover, she particularly loves trying all sorts of folk remedies. Whenever someone says something is good, she immediately gets her hands on it to give it a try. Over all these years, no one in the family has had any issues from it, except for me. Once when I had a fever, she somehow got her hands on a bunch of herbs and brewed me some medicine. After drinking it, I spent the whole day vomiting and having diarrhea. If I hadn't secretly poured out the medicine she brewed later on, I might have kept vomiting and having diarrhea. She was actually quite happy because my fever went down. No matter what the side effects are, at least my fever has gone down. So, Grandma was very confident in her ability to prescribe medicine. This time, she said the medicine she brewed could make mom feel a bit more comfortable. After she put the herbs into the pot, she went to do other things. The medicine was burnt. Then, she added water to it. I had just learned from the teacher that once the medicinal herbs are burnt, you can't add water and boil them again, because it's equivalent to reprocessing the herbs, and the medicinal properties may change. It might turn from a tonic into poison. I was worried that there might be something wrong with the medicine, so I told my grandmother about it. Then, my grandmother scolded me harshly. What do you mean, tonic turning into poison? How old are you? What do you know? Have you been to school for 2 days and now think you're an expert? Why don't you take a look at yourself in the mirror? She scolded me and drove me away, worried that something might go wrong. I told my mother about the situation. My mother was also concerned that the medicine might have gone bad and could harm the baby in her womb, so she told me to throw it away. I obediently followed instructions and secretly poured out the medicine. After that, Grandma brewed the medicine a few more times, and those batches didn't burn. Mom drank these strange concoctions, and thankfully, nothing went wrong. A few months later, Mom gave birth to a little sister. When they saw it was a girl, the whole family was furious, especially Grandma, who found it utterly unbelievable. It's impossible. She clearly drank the gender-changing medicine. The baby in her belly should have turned into a boy. How could this happen? Grandma was furious. They had been longing for a grandson all this time. Dad was also very angry. He had been looking forward to it for a long time, so they started beating and kicking Mom, who was still in her postpartum confinement. I stepped forward to protect Mom, but I got hit too. Then, I felt Mom push me aside and heard her shout loudly, "I know why. It's her. It's all her fault. It was her who said the medicine was poisonous, so she poured it out." Mom was very regretful. If I had known it was a gender-changing medicine, I would have drunk it. She pointed at me angrily, as if she wanted to devour me alive. It's her fault I couldn't give birth to a son. She must have done this because she didn't want me to have a younger brother. With the truth exposed, the whole family was furious. My father was so angry that he gave me, the culprit, a severe beating. My ribs were broken and pierced my lungs. That very night, I died. After my death, my corpse was even sold to someone else for a ghost marriage, after getting the money. Grandma continued to brew various tonics for Mom, hoping she would give birth to a son. Meanwhile, my sister was pricked several times by Grandpa, with needles directly inserted into her head. Their reasoning was that this would scare away any future female souls from reincarnating into the family. That way, the next child would definitely be a boy. After my sister died, they even breathed a sigh of relief. We can't let our daughter take the place of their precious grandson. Recalling the events of my past life, the flames of hatred surged in my heart. Soon, I lowered my gaze again and obediently went to wash the clothes. The laundry sink is outside the kitchen, and while washing clothes, I smelled a burnt odor. Grandma exclaimed, "Oh no, I forgot to watch the fire, it's all burnt." She poured some more water into the pot and lit the fire again to continue cooking. I stared at the kitchen door and fell silent. Grandma came out from inside and, seeing me standing there dumbfounded, started scolding again. "Are you just going to stand there like you're dead, waiting for me to serve you?" I quickly lowered my head and continued washing the clothes. Actually, we have a washing machine at home, but Grandma thinks it wastes electricity and usually refuses to use it. Plus, with me and my mom as two free laborers at home, there's even less need for the washing machine. Now, my mother can't do any work, and all the household chores have piled up on me. I am more silent than ever, quietly doing the work. After washing the clothes, I went to sweep the floor. When they pass by, they don't even glance at me, as if I were just a slave in the house. Soon, the medicine was ready. Grandma poured out the medicine, humming happily as she did so. "My precious grandson, please come quickly." In my previous life, I had run off to find my mother, so I never heard what she said. Only now do I realize that they have always been waiting for the boy who might come at any unknown time. Grandma brought the medicine to Mom's room. "Hurry up and drink it. This medicine is very good for pregnant women." "Thank you, Mom." My mother took the medicine bowl, sniffed it, and said, "Why does it smell burnt?" "Not at all, this medicine is just like this," Grandma said with a straight face, urging, "All right, hurry up and drink it. It won't be good if it gets cold." Mom didn't say anything more and obediently drank the medicine. I stood at the door, watching coldly as Mom drank the medicine. Grandma walked past me with a medicine bowl in her hands and scolded, "What are you still doing here, standing around like a fool? Go get to work. You're so lazy. You'll definitely be beaten to death by your mother-in-law when you go to someone else's house." I pursed my lips and said nothing. They often scolded me like this, always saying that if I didn't work hard, I would be looked down upon by my in-laws and even driven back home. I was really panicked back then, burying myself in work, afraid of being looked down on, and even more afraid of being kicked out and left homeless, because that's the kind of life my mom lived, and I was scared. But only after dying once did I realize that I could choose not to sink into such a quagmire. Of course, I didn't say anything at that moment. I just nodded obediently and went back to work. When I was cleaning my parents' room, my mother, lying in bed, smiled and said to me, "Big sister, when Mommy gets better, I'll take you out to play again." "Okay," I replied softly, but I didn't take it seriously. Before, she used to call me little sister. That's how we address each other here. But now, even though the younger one hasn't arrived yet, she has already automatically promoted me to big sister. From this, it's clear how much she was looking forward to the arrival of this child. In my previous life, I thought she was looking forward to having a second child, but I didn't realize she was only looking forward to having a son. When my dad was in a bad mood, I would get kicked just for walking past him. My mom would step in to protect me, telling my dad not to lay a hand on me. Back then, I thought my mom really loved me, but later, I realized that whenever my dad was in a bad mood and wanted to take it out on someone, she would send me to wander around in front of him. Sure enough, when he got angry and hit me, my mom would step in to play the good guy and defend me. How was that love? She was clearly using me to divert the fire. After Dad vents his anger on me, he won't hit her. I still remember when I was little, my dad often hit her, lashing out whenever he was in a bad mood. By the time I was 6 or 7, my dad started hitting me, and he hit her much less often. Later, because the brother became a sister, all her thoughts were laid bare. What she loved most was still her son. I, her daughter, was just her shield. It was only after dying once in my previous life that I could see everything clearly, given a second chance. How could I possibly be fooled by her sweet words again? However, I was still young and could only continue working, not daring to reveal myself. My mother didn't notice anything unusual about me either, because her mind was entirely on the child in her womb, but soon, she suddenly clutched her stomach and groaned in pain. The whole family was startled. Mom was taken to the hospital. I was left at home. Mom didn't return from the hospital until 2 days later. Their expressions were extremely complicated. It turned out that bowl of medicine was indeed problematic. The baby in Mom's belly almost didn't make it. The doctor also told her not to take random medications, as it could harm the baby and might even lead to a miscarriage. Grandma scoffed at this. This medicine is a good thing. Your reaction just proves that it's working, Grandma said with righteous confidence. Shouldn't we have some reaction when a child wants to change their gender? Change their gender? My mom was stunned. What do you mean? Grandma and the others exchanged glances, no longer hiding it from her. What I gave you to drink was a gender-changing medicine. After drinking it, the girl in your belly will turn into a boy. My mom was shocked. This is fake, isn't it? Her education level wasn't high, but she had also heard about these debunked rumors. How could it be fake? Grandma shook her head. This medicine is really effective. Many people drank it and gave birth to baby boys. My mom looked at them in disbelief, then turned to my dad for help. My father said directly, "Don't worry about anything else, just drink it. If you don't give birth to a son, just wait and see how I deal with you." My mother immediately shrank her neck and didn't dare to speak. Only a hint of anticipation flickered in her eyes. After that, Grandma brewed the medicine for her 2 more times, and she drank it. I looked at her expression and felt a sense of mockery in my heart. She clearly wanted a son too. How quickly and eagerly she drank the medicine, but after drinking the second dose, she raised an objection. This medicine doesn't seem to have any effect after drinking it, and it doesn't have that burnt taste like the first time. Could it be the wrong medicine? After pondering for a while, Grandma quickly figured out the reason. The 2 times of brewing the medicine did seem a bit different, so she brewed the medicine again, following the same steps as the first time. After drinking the burnt medicine once more, her mother ended up in the hospital again. This time, she had a miscarriage. Grandma cried her heart out, for that was her grandson she had never met. Even when the doctor told her that her daughter-in-law had miscarried because she drank those strange and toxic medicines, she refused to believe it. She had absolute faith in the effectiveness of these medicines. After all, she had personally witnessed several pregnant women give birth to baby boys after drinking these medicines. She didn't suspect that the medicine had been burnt, altering its effects. She only felt that her life was too bitter. How could her grandson be gone? Not only Grandma, but everyone else was also deeply heartbroken. My mother was equally devastated. Her son, I watched them wailing and crying, not daring to get close, and when they were sobbing and howling, I kept my distance even more. Fortunately, they were too preoccupied to pay any attention to me, mourning their dead grandson on their own. Within a few days, Grandma had pulled herself together. She somehow managed to get a bunch of herbs and started brewing medicine for my mother again. Starting from scratch this time, we're sure to conceive a son, she said to my mother, her eyes shining with an astonishing brightness. My mother looked at the medicine, her expression somewhat contorted. How long will I have to keep drinking this? But for the sake of having a son, she endured it. However, she had already taken a lot of medicine in the past to conceive a second child, and it had taken a toll on her health. Now, she had just had a miscarriage not long ago, hadn't even finished her postpartum confinement, and her body hadn't recovered yet. How could she possibly handle drinking more medicine? The bitter smell of traditional Chinese medicine lingered in the house every day, and occasionally, some strange odors would appear, making people want to stay away. The more my mother drank, the weaker she became, and her face turned as pale as wax. However, she drank the medicine her grandmother brought over without hesitation. I saw in her eyes her longing for a son. She no longer tried to comfort me, as her mind was entirely focused on taking medicine to conceive a son. The atmosphere at home grew even more tense than before. I continued to work quietly, attend school, and make my presence as inconspicuous as possible. One day when I came home, I noticed my mom was looking at me in a very strange way. She looked at me as if I were her enemy. I was completely puzzled. I hadn't done anything wrong. The next day, a middle-aged woman appeared in our house. The woman was broad-shouldered and thick-waisted, with triangular eyes and thin lips. She looked me up and down as if appraising a piece of goods, giving me goosebumps. I lowered my head, carefully walked away, and then hid to listen to their conversation. Soon, I learned of their plans from their words. It turned out that my mother's belly had been quiet all along, and my grandmother was starting to get anxious. She not only liked all kinds of folk remedies but was also very superstitious, so she sought out a local shaman and asked her what it would take to have a grandson. This woman was the shaman. She came in, took a look, and then pointed the finger at me. The shamaness meant that our family could have had several grandsons, but now they couldn't come because I was taking up their spots. After learning the reason, my grandmother and the others immediately pressed for a solution. The shamaness was vague throughout, leaving it to them to handle it themselves. After the shaman left, I hid behind the door and listened to them talk without restraint about how to kill me, my heart turning cold. In the middle of the night, when all was silent, Grandma got up to use the bathroom. On her way back, a voice suddenly rang out, "Grandma, Grandma." A light, airy voice carried a hint of eerie chill. "Ah, a ghost." Grandma jumped in fright, her drowsiness vanishing instantly. Once she got a clear look at the person before her, she was furious. "You worthless girl, not sleeping in the middle of the night and scaring people like this. Do you want to die?" "Grandma, I'm your eldest grandson, Li Guangzong." My eyes stared at her vacantly, a strange smile curling at the corners of my mouth. At those words, Grandma froze. "Guangzong, they have always wanted a grandson and gave the child a name early on. The names are also quite straightforward. The first is called Guangzong, the second is called Yaozu. If there is a third, it will be called Hongtu, and the fourth will be called Day." "Grandma, I really want to see you soon." "Grandma, I am your second grandson, Yaozu. I miss you so much too. I haven't even spoken to Grandma yet. Why are you running out?" "I miss Grandma, she's my grandma too." Grandma stared blankly as I spoke in two different voices, and goosebumps rose all over her skin. She was flustered and wanted to hit me. "You little rascal, teasing people in the middle of the night." I snapped my fingers, and 200 yuan bills fell from the ceiling, watching the money fall from the sky. Grandma froze. "Grandma, this is the money we found. It's not much, but once we're born, we'll take good care of you and make sure you live a happy life." The money and the words both made Grandma beam with joy. She quickly picked up the 2 banknotes and said with a smile, "Oh, my precious grandson, you really are filial." "Grandma, the bracelet you lost earlier is over there." Grandma looked over and indeed saw the bracelet under the sofa. She excitedly picked up the bracelet, overjoyed. She had lost the bracelet for some time and couldn't find it anywhere. Who would have thought it would just appear before her like this now? She was so thrilled that she completely believed the story about the 2 grandsons. This is truly a great treasure bestowed upon their family by heaven. She spun around in place a few times before remembering the main point. "How can you be born? If you kill your older sister, will you be able to come out?" "No." I shook my head blankly. "Even if we kill our sister, we still won't be able to come out. The problem isn't with your sister, it's with you." Grandma was shocked. "How could that be? That's not what the shaman said." A slightly rough voice chuckled. "She's not a shaman, she was deceiving you." A slightly softer voice added, "If she were that powerful, we would have come out years ago." Grandma was quickly convinced. Indeed, if that witch doctor were truly that powerful, the family would have had a grandson long ago. What should we do then? "The gender-changing medicine you gave to Mom was effective, but the timing was off." Upon hearing about the gender-changing medicine, Grandma became even more convinced, as aside from the few adults and the doctor, no one else would have known about this matter. To this day, she still hasn't suspected that I was the one playing tricks. What should we do? "It's simple. You, Grandpa, Mom, and Dad all have to drink it. Our fate is in your hands." Oh dear, it's time. We have to go. Remember, we mustn't let anyone else know about our business, especially not my sister, or we might not be able to come next time." "Wait." Before Grandma could say anything, my body went limp, and I collapsed to the ground. With a thud, my head hit the door behind me. I covered my head, opening my eyes with a pained expression. Seeing the fierce look on my grandmother's face, I was startled. "Grandma, what are you doing?" I scrambled to my feet, looking around in confusion. How did I end up here?" Seeing my genuine panic and hearing my completely different voice, my grandmother became even more convinced of what had just happened. She gave me a disgusted glare. "What are you doing out here in the middle of the night instead of sleeping?" I was clearly asleep in bed. Could it be that I was sleepwalking? "Who knows what's gotten into you? Go back to sleep." She had no time to deal with me and excitedly went back. I watched her retreating figure with a cold gaze. "I did all this tonight to protect myself. I don't want to be killed by them. I don't know if what I did can change my fate. After all, the whole family has gone crazy trying to have a son." The next day when I returned from school, I caught a whiff of a familiar medicinal smell. I lowered my eyes, hiding the sarcasm in my gaze. Dad and Grandpa held a bowl of medicine, looking very disgusted. Why do we have to drink this too? Isn't this for women to drink? Facing their doubts, Grandma spoke with conviction. Who says this is only for women to drink? Men should drink it too. Her voice was loud and clear. The master said that to have a son, the whole family must work together. Seeing me come in, my father frowned and said, "Does she have to drink too?" I couldn't help but take a few steps back, my expression anxious. My grandmother shot him a look and said, "What does she have to drink? They're of the same generation. What does it have to do with her?" She explained to them that their son/grandson was their bloodline, so they had to work together. Dad and Grandpa were half convinced and also very resistant to the medicine in front of them, but under Grandma's brainwashing, for the sake of their son/grandson, they still pinched their noses and drank it down. Seeing them drink it, Grandma also happily revealed a smile. Her precious grandson is coming soon. For the next few days, all four of them drank this medicine. I expressed my concerns about this, but Grandma dismissed them all. "What do you know? You're just a money loser. Don't act like an expert all day long." I reminded her that the medicine must not be burned or dried out, as it could become toxic. She cursed at me. "You're the one who's toxic. None of your business. Get out of here." She looked at me as if I were trash, wishing she could destroy me on the spot. After expressing my concern, I continued to remain silent. Later, Grandma even went against me. She deliberately let the medicine burn, then added water again. When I looked over, she snorted coldly and continued to boil the medicine. I didn't expect her to have such childish behavior. What can I say? Of course, it's respect. However, at night when I sleep, I occasionally feel like someone is watching me. When I open my eyes, I see my grandmother staring at me with bright eyes, which is quite frightening in the middle of the night. After scaring me twice, my grandmother probably gave up waiting for her grandson and stopped coming. She also increased the frequency and amount of the herbal decoction. The house was filled with a dreadful medicinal smell all day long. After a few days of drinking it, all four of them had turned sallow, and their appetites for food had diminished. Dad raised doubts, but was quickly persuaded by Grandma. Actually, convincing them is quite simple, just one sentence. Do you want to have a son/grandson? For the sake of their son/grandson, they naturally held their noses and continued drinking. A few days later, in the middle of the night, I heard several painful sounds coming from outside. When I got up and looked, I saw them clutching their stomachs and vomiting. I was startled and quickly wanted to call an ambulance. However, before I could even dial the number, my grandmother knocked the phone out of my hand. "What do you need an ambulance for? Do you have too much money?" Grandma's eyes sparkled astonishingly. "I just happen to have some medicine for vomiting here. Just boil it and drink it." I was stunned. "Really? No need to go to the hospital. You both look so serious." "What hospital? Are you burning money or something?" Grandma glared fiercely. "It's not a big deal, just drink some medicine." Although I had long known Grandma's temperament, I was still impressed that she was acting this way even at a time like this. I didn't try to persuade further and could only help with the herbal decoction, but Grandma quickly pushed me aside. "Slow and clumsy, what good are you? By the time you're done, the person will be gone." She muttered to herself and soon started the fire. To speed things up, she even turned up the heat. During this time, she suddenly clutched her stomach and ran to the bathroom. When she returned, the medicine had burned again. She didn't say anything, added water to it again, and continued to simmer. By the time the medicine was ready, her parents were already weak from diarrhea and vomiting, their faces pale. Grandma served each of them a bowl of medicine and told them to drink it. The three of them, not caring about anything else, hurriedly drank the medicine. Within half an hour, they all rushed to the bathroom clutching their stomachs. We only have 2 bathrooms at home, and they weren't enough for them. Finally, the 2 of them, unable to secure a spot, had no choice but to run to the vegetable field to take care of business. But this time, after squatting until their legs went weak, they vomited so violently it shook the heavens and earth. Their commotion was so loud that even the neighbors were startled. When the neighbors came over, they were met with an overwhelming stench and saw the 2 of them collapsed on the ground. Terrified, they quickly rushed them to the hospital. As the only intact person in the family, I had to go along. When we arrived at the hospital, the few of them were already ashen, as if they were about to lose their breath at any moment. They were rushed into the emergency room for resuscitation. After some effort, the doctor came out and shook his head at me. Mother and grandfather died due to acute kidney failure after unsuccessful resuscitation. Grandmother and father were in slightly better condition and were saved, but their bodies were essentially ruined. From now on, they cannot do heavy work and can only be well cared for. The doctors couldn't help but get angry after learning what they had eaten. This is simply outrageous. The so-called gender-changing pills that Grandma brought back actually contain trace amounts of toxins. Consuming too much of them can cause significant harm to the human body. What shocked the doctors even more was that they often consumed burnt medicine, more toxic. They're still alive. What a miracle! After my mother's miscarriage, her health was already poor. Moreover, as a key person for childbirth, she took the most medication, so she died. As for Grandpa, he had underlying health conditions, so he didn't survive either. Dad had the best physical condition, and Grandma drank the least, so both of them survived. They were not much better off alive than dead. When Grandma learned that Grandpa and Mom had died, she was driven mad. It's impossible. How could they die? My daughter-in-law couldn't have died. She was going to give me a grandson. I have 2 grandsons. They are about to be born. They will bring me happiness in the future. The grandmother screamed frantically, unwilling to accept the reality. Everyone listening to her wailing couldn't help but frown. With her husband and daughter-in-law both gone, what she grieved over was not being able to hold her grandsons. To have a grandson, one goes mad. After being frantic for half a day, Grandma suddenly calmed down. I didn't know what she was thinking, but her eyes were a bit frightening. Soon, I knew what she was thinking. The neighbor came to the hospital to visit her, and she grabbed the neighbor Grandma's hand, asking her to introduce a partner for her son. The neighbor Grandma was stunned. Her daughter-in-law had just passed away, her body not yet cold, and she was already looking for a second wife for her son, even if she wasn't grieving for her daughter-in-law. What about her husband? Would you not take it seriously? Who would dare to marry into such a family? The neighbor's grandmother found an excuse, casually brushed it off, and quickly left the hospital. After returning, when she told the people around her, everyone was also stunned. What kind of person is this? That's just too terrifying. I wouldn't dare get close to someone like that. Grandma didn't know what others thought of her, nor did she care. What she cared about more was her eldest grandson, whom she had never met. When she first heard that her daughter-in-law had passed away, she was in a daze. With her daughter-in-law gone, who would give her a grandson? But soon, she came to her senses. Her son was still alive. If he remarried, wouldn't she have a grandson then? The more she thought about it, the more she felt this idea was brilliant. The reason she hadn't been able to hold a grandchild before was because her daughter-in-law's health was poor, so why not just change the daughter-in-law? And it just so happened that this daughter-in-law had died. As for Grandpa, Grandma was sad for a while but quickly pulled herself together. She felt that Grandpa must have wanted to see his grandson too. Besides, without a grandson, who would worship them in the future? So, the grandson is the key point. Grandma made a request to every relative and friend who came to visit her, hoping they could help introduce new partners for my dad. She also added a condition, one who could bear a boy. It was already quite absurd that she brought up the idea of finding a new daughter-in-law at this time. Now, openly emphasizing the preference for boys made it even more frightening. Who dares to guarantee that they will only have sons? If she can't have a son, wouldn't she be forced to take all kinds of medicine? They know how my mother died. Everyone keeps their distance from Grandma, and no one dares to introduce a daughter-in-law to her. Grandma was furious, constantly cursing those people for having no conscience. But soon, she couldn't curse anymore, because the doctor told her that because my dad had taken too many strange medicines before, it not only affected his kidneys but also his fertility. In other words, from now on, my dad won't be able to have children. Grandma was struck as if by lightning and fainted on the spot. When she came to, she began wailing and accusing the doctor of deceiving her. After a chaotic episode, she was finally forced to accept reality. She was completely wilted, like a withered leaf. After a few days of hospital treatment, they were discharged and returned home. After spending a few days dealing with the funerals of my grandfather and mother, I noticed that my grandmother and father's attitude towards me had improved. Perhaps knowing that my father could not have more children and that I was his only child, their attitude towards me changed as well. They no longer scolded me as a burden, and the amount of work I needed to do was significantly reduced. I finally have time to focus on my studies. I know that my grandmother and father don't really love me, nor have they truly changed. They only changed their attitude towards me due to the circumstances. Perhaps one day they will revert to their old ways. I can only escape my current suffering by studying hard, but I never expected that Grandma's obsession would run so deep, to the point where she started risking her life again. In less than a month, Grandma brought back some strange medicinal herbs from who knows where. Then, the same bitter smell filled the house again. I was shocked. She had already made herself sick from eating yet she still wouldn't give up. Was she afraid she wouldn't eat herself to death? My dad was scared and refused outright. I won't eat it, I don't want to die. My dad has long regretted it. He wanted a son, but he never imagined it would end up like this. His wife is dead, and he can't have any more children in the future. What's the point of living like this? However, no matter how meaningless it was, he didn't want to die just like that. Better to live on in misery than to die well. So, when faced with the medicinal soup brought by his grandmother, he firmly refused, but his grandmother had her own reasoning. Do you want to live like this forever? Don't you want to get healthy and have a son? My father's brow was tightly furrowed, and he cursed loudly. Even the doctors can't do anything. What can I do? The doctors can't, but I can. Grandma looked serious. This is medicine I got from a master. Master, it's always the master. My father was furious. We're dying and getting injured because of the medicine this so-called master prescribed. Faced with her grandson's anger, my grandmother didn't get upset. That was just an accident, but this time it really works. Those men with problems always go to the master. Those who couldn't have children before have given birth to several after drinking the medicine prescribed by the master. Anyway, you're already like this, so why not treat a dead horse as if it were alive? Otherwise, do you want to stay like this for the rest of your life, constantly brainwashed by my grandmother? My father gradually softened his stance. Is that so? Do you expect to live like this forever? Recently, whenever he went out, he could hear people talking about him and mocking him behind his back. The news of his infertility had already spread throughout the neighborhood, and he was too afraid to even step outside. If things continue like this, his story might spread across the entire city. This won't do. In the end, my father still chose to believe my grandmother. This time, my grandmother didn't burn the medicine. Although she didn't believe much of what the doctor said, she still took this point to heart. She diligently brewed medicine for my dad every day and watched him drink it. I watched them brew and drink the medicine, continuing to remain silent. I knew that even if I spoke up, they wouldn't take it seriously. So why waste my breath? After a few days of drinking it, my dad suddenly became excited. This medicine really works. I'm back to normal again. Knowing that the medicine was truly effective, Grandma was also very happy, so she continued to prepare the medicine for my dad. My dad also went from being resistant and half-believing to being completely convinced and extremely cooperative. After realizing his condition had improved, my dad even went out for a while. When he returned, his face was beaming with joy. He and his grandmother huddled together, whispering. Then, the smell of medicine in the house became even stronger than before. They eagerly anticipated my father's full recovery, hoping he would bring a baby boy into the family. But soon, a piece of bad news arrived. My dad was in trouble. He was taken to the hospital. This time, he couldn't be saved and died directly. It turned out that the medicine Grandma had been giving him was extremely potent, designed to stimulate a person's latent potential. However, once it was overused, it was all over. That's how my dad ended up gone. The moment she learned of my dad's death, Grandma spat out a mouthful of blood. Impossible. How could this be? You must have killed him. My son is fine. She threw a tantrum in the hospital, but this has nothing to do with the hospital. She herself caused her son's death. In the end, she was driven out of the hospital. She returned home in a daze, looking decades older in an instant. Her originally graying hair turned completely white. In just a few short months, several people in my family have died one after another, and the neighbors around us couldn't help but sigh, saying it was just too eerie. Even the aunties and older women who usually liked to drop by for a visit didn't dare to come over anymore. Grandma locked herself in her room for several days, and when she finally came out, her condition was truly terrifying. Her eyes were hollow and numb, her cheeks shockingly thin, and she gave me a strange, twisted smile. Let's go down and reunite as a family. I felt a chill run down my spine under her gaze and couldn't help but take a few steps back. Then, I saw her charging toward me. I gasped and quickly dodged out of the way. She couldn't brake in time and plunged headfirst into the ditch beside the road. I screamed in terror. The screams drew the neighbors over, and everyone worked together to pull her out and take her to the hospital. After the doctor's examination, it was determined that she had consumed too much medicine containing toxins. These toxins not only affected her body but also impaired her mental faculties, driving her to madness, and after her previous fall, all the underlying issues erupted. In the end, the doctor asked me to accept my grief. I am the only one left in our family, since all the elders in my family had passed away, leaving me as the only child. The villagers took pity on me. The village officials were also kind and showed me extra care. Some even said I had a fate so harsh that it brought misfortune to my entire family, but such claims were quickly dismissed by others. After all, everyone knew that the deaths of the 4 were self-inflicted and had nothing to do with a child like me. Although I became an orphan, my life has become easier than before. With the help of the villagers, school teachers, and classmates, I smoothly continued my education all the way to university. After graduating from university, I applied to teach in a place even more remote than my village. I want to save girls like me. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my previous life, when the top-tier wealthy Shen family came to the orphanage, my younger brother pushed me aside and threw himself into Mrs. Shen's arms, sweetly calling her Mom. Thus, my younger brother successfully went to the Shen family. My younger brother, desperate to fit into the wealthy family's lifestyle, caused endless trouble and ended up making things worse, earning the disdain of his adoptive parents. To avoid being kicked out of the family, he deluded himself into trying to seduce the wealthy heiress. After being discovered by his adoptive parents, he had his limbs broken and was eventually left to wander the streets, forced to beg for a living. Meanwhile, I remained safely and steadily in the orphanage. After graduating from high school, I rode the wave of the times and successfully started my own business. I also unintentionally saved the daughter of a wealthy family. In the end, we got married, and our powerful union led us to the peak of life. However, my younger brother became extremely envious and resentful of me because of this. Driving on the highway, he crashed into me, and we both fell off the cliff together. When we woke up again, we were back on the day we were adopted. This time, my younger brother placed my hand into the hands of the Shen couple. Brother, it's your turn to experience the taste of broken limbs. But he was too naive. My success in my previous life wasn't just due to luck. After a sharp pain, I opened my eyes. I saw a familiar room. Shifeng, what are you spacing out for? The headmistress gave me a little push. Only then did I see clearly that standing before me were a man and a woman dressed in luxurious clothing. Beside them was my younger brother, Shifeng, Mr. Shen, Mrs. Shen. Both Shifeng and Shifeng are usually very well-behaved and sensible boys. Have I returned to the day I was readopted? A wave of surprise washed over me. In the blink of an eye, I saw the ecstatic joy in Shifeng's eyes. It seems he has been reborn as well. At that moment, Mr. Shen glanced at his watch and said impatiently, "Hurry up and decide, I'm in a rush." Shifeng grabbed my hand and, without a word, stuffed it into Mrs. Shen's hand. "Mrs. Shen, please adopt my brother. He's always wanted to know what it's like to live a wealthy life. I heard from the headmistress that you're very rich. Could you take my brother with you? He would be so happy." Shifeng's expression was utterly innocent, looking every bit like a caring younger brother who only had his brother's best interests at heart. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Shen was taken aback, her gaze softening as she looked at him. "What about you? Don't you want to leave this place?" Shifeng then reached out to hold the director's hand. "I want to stay and keep the director company. She works so hard taking care of us, and I want to grow up quickly so I can take care of her too." Mrs. Shen's expression immediately brightened, and she looked at Shifeng with deep affection. I watched him put on this act with a cold eye, choosing not to say anything more. The headmistress felt a bit awkward at that moment, taking a slight step back and forcing a smile as she said, "This child." I naturally understood why the headmistress was acting this way. Shifeng had always been a rebellious soul, defying both heaven and earth. Since childhood, she loved causing mischief, and the headmistress's skirts and collars were always filled with all sorts of small creatures. Every time Shifeng is about to stir up trouble, he loves to put on this harmless, innocent act. "Then, do you want to go home with us?" Mrs. Shen suddenly asked me, her tone somewhat cold. I knew that my brother would never leave with them. There are only 2 healthy boys left in the orphanage. More importantly, this orphanage was funded and built by the Shen family. It seems that I really have to go back with them today. "Dad, Mom," I bowed to them. Mr. Shen glanced at me with an unreadable expression. Mrs. Shen also wore a faint expression and instructed her secretary to handle the formalities. Before leaving, my younger brother whispered in my ear, "Brother, congratulations." I looked up at him. Shifeng continued, "The taste of having your limbs broken in your previous life, it's your turn this time. As for your happy life, it's mine now." I turned my head to look at his seemingly insane expression and couldn't help but laugh. "Do you think I'm foolish enough to follow in your footsteps? Do you believe my success in my previous life was just a matter of luck? Even if you were to start over, you would still be so naive." After saying that, without looking at his livid face, I got into the luxury car heading to the Shen family. Upon arriving at the Shin family, Mr. and Mrs. Shin left me with the butler and departed. At that moment, the Shin family's daughter, Shin Qingyi, slowly descended from upstairs. Her expression was full of arrogance and disdain toward me. How can any beggar just walk in? She looked me up and down. I heard my parents originally wanted to adopt your brother. Tell me, what kind of lowly tricks did you use? As I looked at the malicious Shin Qingyi before me, I couldn't connect her with the Shin Qingyi from my past life who loved to act spoiled with me. This is mom and dad's decision. I can't make the call. Shin Qingyi smiled with a malicious gleam. You like the life of the rich, don't you? Well, I hope you enjoy it to the fullest. With that, she left. The butler then led me to a small room on the first floor that had once been used for storing odds and ends. Although it was rearranged, it was even smaller than the bathroom in Shin Qingyi's room. I didn't really mind. I had long known that the Shin couple never really wanted to adopt a child. It was simply because they only had Shin Qingyi as their daughter. Many members of the Shin family's collateral branches are currently eyeing Father Shin's position. To prevent the power from falling into the wrong hands, they had no choice but to adopt a boy. On the surface, it's about grooming an heir, but in reality, it's just a cover-up, so I don't care at all whether they care about me or not. All I want is the resources that the Shin family can provide me. Inevitably, I ended up becoming a servant in the Shin family. As long as Shin Qingyi is present, I am not allowed to eat at the same table as her. I can only squat at a small table nearby to have my meals. During the Shin family's banquets, I am also confined to my room and not allowed to go out. In Shin Qingyi's words, attending a banquet would only bring shame to the Shin family. Shin's father and mother were aware of these matters, but they never intervened. After all, I was merely an adopted son who coveted wealth and status. At school, my life was even more miserable when my younger brother Shi Qing, along with others, cornered me in the bathroom. I saw Shin Qingyi leaning against the railing outside, laughing happily. They locked me in the stall and poured bucket after bucket of dirty water from the outside. Before I could even resist, they dragged me out again. The leader was the one who followed Shin Qingyi around like a lapdog. He pinned me to the ground, laughing as he slapped me. Brother, I'm sorry, I tried to stop them, but you went too far. The Shin family adopting you was supposed to be a good thing. How could you use Miss Shin's name to threaten classmates? Shi Qing shook his head at me, his expression full of disappointment. Hearing this, Shin Qingyi asked someone nearby, "Is that the kid's brother?" After receiving a positive answer, Shin Qingyi looked at her younger brother with admiration in her eyes. In her perception, Shi Qing was that resilient young man who, for the sake of his brother's happiness, voluntarily gave up the adoption opportunity and stayed behind in the orphanage to endure hardship. After this group of people had beaten me up badly, someone in the crowd shouted, "The teacher is coming." Everyone scattered in an instant. I got up and washed my bruised and swollen face. A girl nearby handed me a school uniform. "Wear this, your clothes are dirty." I looked at her. It was Xie Ran, a quiet girl from our class. I didn't refuse her kindness. "Thank you for helping me earlier." She was somewhat taken aback, knew it was her who had shouted that sentence earlier. Otherwise, those people wouldn't have let me off so easily. "Weren't you adopted by the Shin family? Why didn't Shin Qingyi help you?" I put on the school uniform she gave me and found that it fit perfectly. Seeing me staring at the uniform, she felt a bit embarrassed. I bought a bigger one, so it lasts longer. I quickly looked away. I usually do the same. "Thank you for today." Xie Ran smiled shyly again. "You can keep wearing it for now, no need to rush to return it." With that, she walked away, holding her books. I called out to her, "Xie Ran, I got this outfit dirty. I'll get you a new set tomorrow." She turned back and smiled at me. All right. Shin Qingyi's methods of dealing with me were more childish than I had imagined. Every morning, she would deliberately wait until just before school started, arranging for the family driver to take her first, leaving me to either take the bus or walk to school. The breakfast prepared at home always had a sour smell. Even at school, my chair was smeared with glue. While eating in the cafeteria, someone would suddenly come and knock over my tray, and sometimes they would even pour some yellow liquid on it. Not to mention my books and homework, which were almost never intact. I only considered her a child, so each time I would just calmly wipe the glue off the chair. Every time this happened, Shin Qingyi would glare at me fiercely, saying, "Putting on an act." Xie Ran quietly handed me a damp handkerchief. "Wipe it off, you've got some on your pants too." After taking it, I glanced at the lunch on her desk, which consisted only of some pickled vegetables, and placed the dish into her bowl. "I haven't eaten it yet. It's not dirty. I just got this dish freshly made." Xie Ran held her chopsticks, somewhat at a loss. "Thank you. I should be the one thanking you. you're the only one who would help me. What I meant was, when I was being bullied by Shen Qingyi, she was the only one who would step in to help. She didn't say anything more after that, eating her meal in silence. I saw the English exercise book on her desk and suddenly had an idea. Can you study with me? Xie Yiran was shocked. Isn't your academic performance quite good? I smiled, but my English has always been poor. I remember you won first prize in an English competitions. Could you teach me? Don't worry, it won't take up much of your time. And I'll pay you for the tutoring. I mentioned a number she couldn't refuse. Sure enough. Xie Yiran hesitated, then it settled. After class, you'll tutor me in English for 2 hours. To be honest, I'm quite glad that my younger brother, Shi Qing, wants to swap places with me, at least in the Shen family. I don't have to worry about whether I have enough money to spend. In my past life, at the orphanage, the only thing I didn't have to worry about was the tuition for each semester, but the meager daily living expenses meant I had to think twice about whether I could even afford a bowl of rice for lunch. Not to mention, the school I attend is an ordinary hope school with average teaching staff. Apart from the courses taught by the teachers, if I want to learn more, I can only save up to buy tutoring materials by cutting back on my own expenses. In this life, thanks to the Shen family, I was able to attend this key city school, and I no longer have to worry about food and clothing. I can also buy those expensive materials without batting an eye. In addition, the Shen family gives me a large monthly allowance, and those branded clothes and shoes are all taken care of by the housekeeper and placed in my wardrobe. Although Mr. and Mrs. Shen don't care much about me as their adopted son, at least in front of others, they still put on a show to avoid giving the impression that the Shen family would mistreat even an adopted child. And now, all the hardships I endured in my past life, Shi Qing will have to experience them one by one. I know that the reason he was able to attend this key city school in this lifetime is because Shen's mother believed he had a kind and virtuous nature, so she made the decision to transfer him here. However, all other living expenses would have to be covered by himself. After all, his current persona is that of a strong and non-materialistic person, so he had no choice but to attend classes during the day and work part-time jobs at night, all at places Shen Qingyi frequently visited. You know, Shi Qing is quite persistent when it comes to pursuing Shen Qingyi. He never really liked studying. Since childhood, he's dreamed of striking it rich overnight. Now that he's caught Shen Qingyi's attention, he'll naturally do everything he can to hold on to her. One weekend, Xie Yiran and I had just finished studying at the library. Come with me somewhere. Xie Yiran checked the time and nodded in agreement. Arriving at an orphanage, Xie Yiran looked at me with surprise in his eyes. A child saw me and happily rushed over, saying, "Brother Shifeng." I smiled and hugged him, replying, "Most of the pocket money the Shen family gave me, I used to sponsor these children. These children are not in the best health, and I also came from an orphanage, so I help as much as I can." Xie Yiran nodded. Shen Qingyi always says at school that you were adopted by the Shen family just for their money, although I didn't believe it. Today I'm convinced you're not that kind of person. I smiled without saying a word. Actually, it wasn't entirely for myself. In the Shen family, where interests come first, if I remained useless, I would inevitably be abandoned. Helping these children isn't just for me, it's also to build a good reputation for myself, so that it becomes a trump card in my hand. I've always tried my best to avoid conflicts with Shi Qing. I've also allowed Shen Qingyi to bully me at will, but Shi Qing is still not satisfied. He wanted to completely destroy me. That day, many journalists from the Education Bureau came to the school to promote it. Just as the journalists were packing up to leave, a girl crouched in the corner, crying, appeared in her camera lens. The journalist immediately perked up. "Classmate, are you okay?" The girl looked up, her face covered in injuries, with bruises and purple marks all over her body. This sight was truly heartbreaking to see. The reporter called the principal. After the principal arrived, he saw the girl surrounded by a crowd, sobbing. "Classmate, just tell us what happened." "Don't be afraid." The girl glanced at the crowd and then tearfully recounted the incident. "When the principal and the reporter came looking for me with others, I was in the classroom studying English with Xie Yiran." "Is that him?" The reporter pointed at me and asked the girl. I frowned and looked over, immediately spotting Shi Qing also mixed in the crowd. The girl seemed quite afraid of me. When she saw me looking over, she shrank back a little. "Shen Shifeng, I have a few questions for you." The reporter thrust the microphone in my face. I was filled with confusion when I heard her ask, "You rely on the Shen family's power to bully classmates at school, as an adopted child. Why do you dare to do such things?" I was stunned for a moment, then immediately understood and couldn't help but laugh. Seeing me laugh, everyone grew furious. "He's actually laughing. It's only because the Shen family has power and influence that he dares to act so arrogantly. I've long heard from Miss Shen that Shen Shifeng went to great lengths to be adopted because of the Shen family's wealth. It's said that he even beat his own younger brother severely just to make Shirqing give up the adoption spot, because Mrs. Shen preferred Shirqing more. I always thought there was something off about him, but I never imagined he could be this despicable. I glanced at the speakers. They were all Shen Qingyi's lackeys. Xie Yiran spoke up for me. Shifeng couldn't possibly be that kind of person. Why would he bully her? The girl then said pitifully, Shen Shifeng told me that someone as ugly as me doesn't deserve to live in this world. He said I had the nerve to attend the same school as him, and even threatened to hit me every time he sees me from now on. The reporter, upon hearing this, angrily said to the camera, just because they thought the girl was plain-looking, they beat her up so recklessly. Has the Shen family behind Shen Shifeng raised such a spoiled and unruly child? I was about to suggest calling the police, but then I saw Shirqing being pushed out, holding his phone. He said with a slight tremor in his voice, "Brother, this time I really can't let you go on like this. I can no longer keep covering up for you forcing me to commit rape." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire room erupted in an uproar, and the principal's face turned ashen. Shen Shifeng, do you realize that what you're doing right now is illegal? The reporter asked me. I looked at Shirqing, and he added, I recorded everything my brother said to me. He wasn't like this before. From the phone, the sound of me forcing Shirqing to coerce others could be heard. Even I was threatening Shirqing, telling him to take nude photos of the girl. You're nothing but a beast. Some confused classmates angrily shouted at me. At that moment, Shen Qingyi's little followers all stepped forward, claiming they were the ones I usually bullied. Xie Yiran trembled with anger. Shirqing, he is your own brother. How could you slander him like this? I pulled her back and said to Shirqing, I've already called the police. If you say I forced you to rape others and made you take their nude photos, then let the police investigate and find the victims you mentioned. Seeing me so fearless, the reporter also began to doubt the truth of Shirqing's words. Shen Qingyi stepped forward. I can testify that Shen Shifeng recently spent a large sum of money to bribe the police and pay off witnesses to give false testimony. Of course, he isn't afraid of calling the police because he has already made preparations. After the police arrived, they took both me and Shirqing away. Xie Yiran kept shouting that I must have been framed, while the classmates nearby mocked her, saying she had been brainwashed by me. The journalist was very quick. The report went viral, and both of Shen's parents became aware of the matter. After the incident escalated, many netizens said I should be sentenced to death. When Shen's father arrived at the police station, his face was very pale. Whether you did it or not, the current situation has caused severe damage to our group. You'd better confess as soon as possible. We will later announce that we have terminated the adoption relationship with you. Shen's mother complained. I've said all along that we should have adopted Shirqing. That child is so much more well-behaved than Shifeng. Shirqing, meanwhile, looked at me through the window, smiling triumphantly and mouthing the words, Brother, you're finished. I turned to the police officer and asked, Uncle, may I make a phone call? He went out to inquire and came back to hand me the phone. After making a few calls, I said, Uncle, let's sit down and talk for a while. The police called Shirqing and Shen's parents in. I asked Shirqing, do you hate me so much that you want to see me disgraced? Shirqing pretended to be harmless in front of Shen's mother. Brother, how can you say that about me? If you hadn't done such a thing, why would I wish for your downfall? I then asked, you said I forced you to rape someone. When was that? Shirqing hesitated. It was just a week ago. I turned to the police officer. The person who can testify for me is outside. Can they be brought in? I know that Shen Qingyi has bribed someone inside the police station, but she was too careless. The current police chief has only recently taken office and is known for his integrity and impartiality. If the Shen family had intervened, I might have been firmly nailed to this pillar of shame today, but with Shen Qingyi, she can only go this far, and I happen to know the director. Coincidentally, the welfare home I often donate to is the very one where the director spent his childhood. He was later adopted by a military couple, and even after growing up, he often returns to the welfare home to visit the director. I met him right there in the orphanage. The police officer initially didn't want to agree to my request, but upon seeing the chief standing outside, he immediately complied. You said this happened just last week, but at that time, I was in the orphanage. The chief, the director, and so many children can all testify for me. As for your so-called audio evidence, if you take it for verification, you'll naturally find out whether it's fabricated or not. I had the director bring the surveillance footage, which can be verified for authenticity. Do you dare to check it? I looked at Shi Qing with a half-smile, and he immediately panicked. Who knows if you bribed the director? Ridiculous. The director looked at him sternly. To be honest, it is indeed absurd. The director's adoptive parents are also prominent figures in the capital, not to mention Shen Qingyi. Even the Shen family is not worth mentioning in front of him, let alone trying to bribe him. Shen's father and mother obviously understand this as well, quickly laughing it off and saying, perhaps it's just a conflict between the children, it shouldn't be anything serious. Our Shi Feng isn't usually like this, the director said sternly. Young as you are, you're quite cunning, even learning to bribe and slander. I think if we don't properly discipline you, things will get out of hand. Mr. Shen nodded repeatedly. Yes, you're absolutely right. Under the director's instructions, the truth of the matter quickly came to light. It turned out that Shi Qing had orchestrated this entire act himself. The girl who was beaten was also assaulted by Shi Qing, and Shen Qingyi then forced her to slander me in front of the reporters. As for the audio evidence that Shi Qing presented, it was also fabricated with money. There was never any incident of me forcing him to rape someone else. All of this was orchestrated because he was jealous and resentful of me. After the truth came to light, my public reputation instantly reversed. I never imagined Shi Qing could be such a person. I think he's the most malicious one of all. I listened to my classmates talking about Shi Qing in front of me and just smiled. Now, the bullying directed at me has also decreased significantly. Because of this incident, Shen Qingyi was severely scolded by her father, and her credit card was suspended. Now there's no time to worry about me anymore. To compensate me, Mr. and Mrs. Shen transferred 500,000 into my bank account, claiming it was to treat myself. Xie Yiran's eyes were red. These people are all Monday morning quarterbacks. They were criticizing you before, and now they're trying to sweet-talk you. I comforted her. Public opinion can be intimidating, but I don't really care. After all, you've always believed in me, haven't you? Her face instantly flushed red, her tearful yet slightly flushed appearance, falling into my eyes, looked utterly captivating. High school days quickly approached their end. After the college entrance exam, I asked Xie Yiran, which university do you want to go to? Her expression darkened a bit. I want to get as far away from home as possible. I understood her worries. Her father was a gambler, and after drinking too much, he often talked about marrying her off early. Then come start a business with me, let's make money together. Do you trust me? I plan to continue my self-media career from my previous life. Nowadays, with the times progressing, self-media is bound to become a trend. Xie Yiran smiled at me. I've always believed in you. I had no intention of letting Mr. and Mrs. Shen know about starting a business. It's just that I returned to the Shen family less and less often. Even if Shen Qingyi was unhappy with me, she had no choice but to give up since she couldn't find me. At the dinner table one day, Shen Qingyi was absent, and I was eating with Mr. and Mrs. Shen. Mrs. Shen gave Mr. Shen a meaningful look. Mr. Shen said, "You're old enough now, and the support our Shen family has given you is more than enough. In a few days, you should move out." I had long anticipated this day would come, but it's still not the right time, at least until my career starts to take off. I put down my chopsticks. Dad, do you know which university I got into? Mr. Shen frowned. But the results haven't been released yet, have they? Of course, they haven't been released yet, but I'm different. I smiled and said, I've already been recommended for admission to Peking University. Taking the college entrance exam is just for the experience. My grades have always been excellent. In my previous life, even in a school with subpar teaching resources, I managed to get into Peking University. Not to mention, in this life, I've received the best education and been able to focus entirely on my studies. Getting a recommendation wasn't difficult at all. They were instantly stunned. Mother Shen still seemed somewhat incredulous. You're not just trying to comfort us, are you? I said earnestly. In a few days, the TV station will arrange for a reporter to come for an interview. You can ask the reporter then. Father and Mother Shen were stunned for a long time, unable to calm down. After all, in their eyes, I, as their adopted son, was truly dispensable. Whether I did well or not in my studies didn't matter to them. As long as I obediently waited until adulthood, they could finally be rid of me. Who would have thought that I could still bring them honor? After all, for the Shen group, having a student admitted to Peking University through recommendation was another excellent opportunity for publicity. Father Shen, his face flushed with excitement, shouted, Aunt Wang, bring out that bottle of wine directorly sent over last time and open it. Shen's mother was clearly very happy too, drinking several glasses in a row. I sat beside them, and when I looked up, I saw Shinqingi standing on the stairs, staring at me with a gloomy expression. I raised my glass to her from afar. After Shen's father and mother, slightly drunk, returned to their room, Shinqingi came downstairs. Her expression somewhat inscrutable to me. You're quite pleased with yourself, aren't you? What do you have to be so smug about? Don't think that just because of this, Mom and Dad will like you. I chuckled softly. Shinqingi, I don't understand what you're talking about. With that, I stood up to leave. Miss Shen, you can rest easy. Apart from having some use to me, the Shen family really doesn't hold much appeal in my eyes. Shinqingi reached out and grabbed me, her eyes reddening with anger. Shen Shifeng, you never should have come to the Shen family. Why does it have to be you? I thought she was going crazy and shook off her hand. Miss Shen, please have some self-respect. With the help of the top student Xie Ran, our progress was actually faster than in my previous life. Within 2 years, our company gained some local fame. During these 2 years, I heard news about Shi Qing. He never liked studying, and even after being reborn, he only cared about how to ruin me. As a result, his college entrance exam scores were not ideal, and he could only get into a third-rate university. I heard he was getting close with Shinqingi, but Shinqingi never acknowledged him as her boyfriend and often went out to have fun with male models, until someone told me that Shi Qing was working as a cleaner in a hotel. I was taken aback for a moment and checked the date. It was exactly the moment in my previous life when I unintentionally saved Shinqingi. In my past life, the rival of the Shen family wanted to ruin Shinqingi, so they lured her to a hotel, drugged her, and arranged for several men infected with HIV to be there. After realizing what was happening, Shinqingi mustered all her strength and ran out. I was working as a cleaner at the hotel at the time, found her, and took her to the hospital. Shinqingi's affection for me grew significantly because of this, and she even insisted on marrying me. It seems that Shi Qing wanted to use this incident to win Shinqingi's heart. That's why he started working as a cleaner at that hotel so early on. But, my dear little brother, when you harmed me like that, weren't you afraid I would ruin your plans? I still remember the name of that company from back then, so I called their boss, Mr. Chen. There's a potential collaboration I'd like to discuss with you. Would you be available? There was a slight hesitation on the other end, as they had something significant planned for today. The price is negotiable. If you're not interested, I'll reach out to the Shen family instead. Mr. Chen immediately agreed. Before hanging up the phone, I faintly heard him saying that the matter would be postponed. After meeting him, I brought up the idea of cooperation. Mr. Chen kept glancing at his watch from time to time, and the phone beside him kept ringing one after another. I knew he was anxious about Shinqingi's matter, so I very understandingly let him go make the call. After he got up to answer the phone, I called the police. Century Hotel, Suite 3301, there's a group engaging in lewd activities. After Mr. Chen arranged everything, he immediately looked radiant. Mr. Shi, here's to a pleasant cooperation between us. I raised my glass with a smile. Mr. Chen, a pleasure doing business. I heard that when the police arrived, they happened to catch those men in the act of undressing Shinqingi. The next second, Shinqingi woke up and immediately screamed for help. As for Shi Qing, when he saw the police standing at the door of the suite, his first instinct was to run, which the police mistakenly interpreted as him being an accomplice, so they took him back to the station for questioning as well. Later, after interrogation, it was found out that it was arranged by Mr. Chen, and his company was consequently investigated. After handling this matter, I was in a great mood. Upon returning to the Shen family, both Mr. and Mrs. Shen and Shinqingi were there. Shifeng, come here. Shen's father looked at me with a serious expression. This company, is it yours? I glanced at the documents in his hand and nodded. It's a company I co-founded with Iran. Upon hearing this, Shen's father immediately became delighted. I knew I wasn't wrong about you. If you want to pursue a career in business, why go through the hardship of starting your own venture? Come to the group tomorrow to report, and I'll show you the ropes of the family business. I didn't refuse. Something that benefits me without any harm is, of course, something I'm more than happy to accept. Shen's father was extremely satisfied with my tactfulness. Shinqingi hesitated for a moment and said to me, I heard it was you who called the police about that matter. Thank you. I replied indifferently. No need to thank me. Seeing that I didn't seem very interested in engaging, she didn't want to push her luck and, gritting her teeth, left. After entering the Shen group, I relied on the Shen family's resources to gradually grow my own company, to the point where even the Shen family could no longer compete with me. He still showed me the revenue report. With such a large piece of the pie, it's hard for the Shen family not to be tempted. Indeed, the annual profit from my company alone is equivalent to that of 2 Shin groups. I didn't pay much attention to it. If they think they can control me now, I'm afraid they can't. Xie Yiran was somewhat unsure how to broach the subject, hesitating for a moment before finally saying, I think they would want Shin Qingyi to marry you. After all, it's the easiest way to control you and the quickest method. After hearing this, I looked at her. Now, she no longer had the innocence of her youth. In every gesture, there was the charm of a mature woman, yet in front of me, she still seemed a bit shy. Iran, back when I was falsely accused, it was you who firmly stood by my side. Now, it's also you who accompanies me in starting this business. In the past 2 years, when the company faced crises, it was you who worked tirelessly to help me overcome the difficulties. The Shin family wants Shin Qingyi to marry me, but I don't want to marry her. I want to marry you, Iran. Sure enough, one evening after I returned to the Shin family, Mrs. Shin came to find me. You've grown up under our watch, and we trust you deeply. Now, Mom wants to ask you, are you willing to marry Qingyi? I caught a glimpse of a red skirt hem at the corner of the stairs. Shin Qingyi was listening upstairs. I retorted, Mom, is Shin Qingyi willing? Mrs. Shin thought I would agree and nodded repeatedly. Of course she is willing. You two have had your little spats over the years, so I imagine your feelings run deep. I just find it amusing. It turns out that what Shin Qingyi did years ago, bribing the police to frame me, was just a minor incident. I don't want to. Mrs. Shin's words came to an abrupt halt. I continued, Mom, I have no feelings for Shin Qingyi. The only person I love is Xie Yiran. Mrs. Shin never expected me to refuse outright. She just smiled awkwardly, told me to think it over carefully, and then walked away. That night, as I lay in bed pondering how to make Mrs. Shin give up on this idea, the door suddenly opened. Shin Qingyi, dressed in light clothing, slowly walked toward my bedside. I looked at her. What are you doing? Her face flushed slightly. Why did you reject Mom? I was very puzzled. You've always disliked me. Now that she wants you to marry me, are you willing? A look of confusion appeared on Shin Qingyi's face. I don't know why, but I always want to hurt you, yet I can't help but want to get close to you. I don't know why. There's always a voice in my heart saying that you, Shifeng, are the man I love the most, but my reason tells me that you are the person I hate the most. How could I possibly love you? I understood in my heart. Perhaps that was the voice of my past self speaking, but now, I am no longer the Shifeng from my past life, Shin Qingyi said, and was about to climb onto me. I still refused. Please have some self-respect, Miss Shen. I don't love you, and I don't want to marry you. After rejecting Shin Qingyi, she seemed to feel very embarrassed, so she bought a plane ticket and went on a trip to Norway. I rarely saw her after that. Shin's parents had wanted to find another opportunity to catch me off guard, but I struck first. I restructured the company's board of directors, placing my people in almost every key department. Soon, I gained control of the majority of the board members of the Shin Group and smoothly merged it into my own company. Just as I was feeling smug and satisfied, my long silent brother, Shi Qing, suddenly appeared. He held a sharp knife in his hand, waiting for my arrival in the shadows. Shi Qing, before I could react, he stabbed a knife into my chest, muttering, as long as I kill you, I can start over again. Instantly, I lost consciousness and fell into a coma. In my dream, I saw Iran. She seemed to be making a deal with someone. I saw everything. In my past life, I was just a diligent, hard-working student from a poor family, still worse off than me. Her father was a gambler, and her mother worked in the flesh trade. For a gambling debt of 5,000 yuan, Xie's father wanted to sell her to a 70-year-old widower in the countryside. Xie Yiran refused to the death and ran away. At that time, I had just come out of the convenience store where I worked. I happened to see her curled up in a corner crying on the road. After asking the reason, I gave her the 5,000 I had saved by scrimping and saving, hoping she could escape her predicament. But the truth was, Xie's father discovered the 5,000 and, convinced she had stolen the money from home, still sold her off. Xie Yiran, who had suffered inhuman torment in the countryside, suddenly encountered a mysterious person. That person told her that as long as she silently recited her own name in her heart, she could start over again. Xie Yiran arrived at the river that very night. She didn't want to start over. After all, being born into such a family, she couldn't start over, so she thought of me, silently repeating my name countless times in her heart. Then she jumped into the river. Seeing this, I finally understood. So this was the reason for my rebirth. Feeling a wave of dizziness, I was sucked into something. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a hospital bed, still by my side, looking haggard. You're finally awake. she cried and threw herself into my arms. I stroked her hair and whispered softly, "Thank you, Iran, whether in the past life or this one, thank you." The stab from Shirqing was only a few millimeters away from my heart. The doctor said I was lucky. If it had been any more off, I wouldn't have survived. Shirqingza was sentenced to 10 years for intentional homicide. To prevent him from seeking revenge after his release, I arranged for someone to deliberately provoke him into committing further offenses while he was inside. As a result, he was given an additional sentence of several years. Later, I held a grand wedding with Iran and began living a blissful life that everyone envied. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.